2025, the year of our Lord, has been a very difficult one, but 2024 was just as difficult because the issues have remained the same. A lot of women are finding themselves in positions where they're like, I don't want to be depending on a man. I don't want to do that no more. So everyone's out in the field, everyone's out working. And if the man and the woman of the house are both working, guess what? Who's taking care of the children? A nanny, an in-law, something. It's never you. It's never really particularly you. And as life is, work always gets you stressed out. So you never really tend to have quite the amount of time that you would have wanted to spend with your child, if at all. It's the weekend, you're tired, you just want to crash, you don't want stories mob. So you end up, this becomes like it's a small thing. It starts as a trickle and then it becomes a pour, right? And so the question has always been, how much time can you spend with your child, or should you spend with your child? I'm looking at it from the guise of quality, not quantity, right? Quality versus quantity. For example, if and when you are spending time with your children, are you having meaningful conversations with them, right? Are you having in-depth conversations and curiosities about their lives? How are your friends? Oh, so Nani did what? Okay, cool. And then they say, oh, okay. Like, you are constantly updated on their lives, and even when you're not home, you're not necessarily with them, they are free and confident enough to hit you up and tell you something is going on. And I think that fear of my parent will scold me is also a big issue on how much time you spend with your child. Because even if you spend 10 hours with this child every day and they don't trust you, or they don't feel safe enough with you, or they feel like they'll get scolded, they're still not going to tell you stuff, right? So I think it's the quality of time that you're spending with the child versus the quantity, right? That's where I'm looking at it from.
Yeah, quality all the time. And you also have to be very intentional about the quality time you're spending with your child. Meaning, regardless of the challenges that people experience these days, with what your children are exposed to at school, if you're intentional about your child, you're going to manage these things. For example, screen time. Does your child have a set screen time, or is just free reign on the TV? That's not right. If you're leaving devices to raise your children, trust me, they're going to get the knowledge from the sources available to them. So, like, parent guide. And I always used to think that I'm just going to be a very free parent. Like, I'll never put a password on my TV. I'll never, because you grow up, you think your parents are mad. But right now, like, I go through those YouTube subscriptions. I have screen time. I have a specific time when the TV is off or on. When I'm not at home, if a specific time, it goes off. You want to switch it on? What's the password? But because you really have to be intentional about the resources available to your children, because it's a lot. Even the friends around your children, you need to figure out who they are, who their parents are. Because even the things you got to know, and not through your parents or school, how did you know your friends? I saw this story of, it's the book we're reading, The Sex Lives of African Women, where this girl says, like, they were just like going home, and one girl said, do you know how to put a pencil? How many of you can put a pencil up their vagina? And they all tried it, and it was an interesting experience. And I'm just like, age 7, age 8, your children are exposed to so many things. So yeah, you need to do all of that.
And also just age appropriate types of engagements. You can't, the amount of time and the kind of time you will spend with your toddler is going to be very different from the amount of time you'll spend with a teenager and a teenager, right? And an older child. These differ for many reasons, including they have different needs, they're going through different spaces in their lives. So you need to be very conscious of the kind of time that you're spending with your child and how you're appropriating it, especially if you have multiple children of different ages, right? You can't start a gugu gagaing with your teenager and expect them to appreciate that conversation. They're worried about things like Turi has just mentioned. Sex lives, there's so much information that's being flooded right now. Bullying, there's so much of that happening right now. Like, there's so many other things that are bothering them, and school life at the same time, keeping up with trends at the same time. There's so much more that's going on in their lives than you would know. And as much as we say, children don't know, when you were a teenager yourself, right? What were the things that were plaguing you? Be honest, reflect, and you will realize it's actually in childhood that children become who they need to be in the future, and who they become in the future is completely and solely based on what they were and experienced as children. So why would you ignore this very sensitive and important, crucial part of their life that will then determine what kind of grown-up and grandparent they end up becoming? You know, let's be more keen on these things and try and divulge information and engagements that are valuable, right? A teenager is asking you about simple things like, why am I seeing Cardi B wearing a thong and twerking on the internet? Like, what's that about? And why can't I do that? She's done it. She has millions of followers. Why can't I do it? And finding a way to bridge that reality versus, you know, they're comparing themselves with. There's so much stuff you need to be keen on and be mindful of when you are addressing different children at different ages. So be keen on that.
And also, it depends on the dynamic of your family, because not all families are the same. There are two mom families, there are one mom family, one dad family. So sometimes when the dynamic is like that, it's very simple for your child to slip through the cracks. You know, when both of you are fighting over co-parenting and who gets to spend time with the child, and you end up fighting, you don't actually spend time with said child. And sometimes even in co-parenting situations, if you're not putting your child first, if the child is not the priority of the conversations you're having, they're going to slip through the cracks. You know, you spend so much time fighting and arguing, you just don't spend time with your child. So be conscious of the dynamic in your household. If the mom is always there, she could be there, yes, but does she actually spend quality time? Does she spend one-on-one time with a child? If the dad is always there, he did not run away. But is he intentional about the relation? Because he could just be there, he just watches TV, he sees you guys around, even you know your father is at home, but there's no consequence.
There's no impact.
You're just breathing the same air. Yeah, so you have to be very intentional regardless of the dynamic.
Also, there's so many definitions of good parenting based on the society and the culture that you're in. For example, we all know, like in Asian communities, they tend to stay home forever, right? Even when you're married, your wife now comes to live with us in our home. So that can look very different for other people. For example, in Haiti, who are just living their best lives. They are open to things like voodoo and all of these other practices that are very inherent to who they are, which will be very, very drastically different from me, who comes from Meru and Ukambani, where my culture is different, where they raise children differently. Like, all of these factors need to come into play. But ultimately, the one thing you need to stay consistent is that your child forever feels like you love them, you care for them, and you are intent on being in their lives. Because that's the only thing kids only remember, to be entirely honest. Kids only remember how they felt, right? Some of the memories may get lost in time, in the back of their minds. But how did you make me feel as a child? You know, as you said, the impact of your children's life and the quality of their lives will directly impact the kind of adults that they will be, the kind of memories they'll have, the kind of traumas they'll be facing, or none of these traumas as well. Be mindful of your culture, and if it's not working for you, find a new one. You don't have to live in society's standards. Live in your nuclear family standards, right?
And I know millennials and Gen Zs are very intentional about the relationships they have with their children.
Sure.
They're very involved, but there is such a thing as being too involved.
Oh, for sure.
Don't become a helicopter parent just because you just don't want your child to be neglected. That also has an impact on them.
Yep.
They become too dependent on you. You also want to give your child a healthy amount of independence. Let them do stuff, you know, like you're just guiding them but from afar. Let them make mistakes. Let them learn from said mistakes. Let them go and make their own friends. Like, avoid controlling each and every second of your child's life. Yes, you want them to be successful. You don't want them to be neglected when they're growing up, but don't overcorrect. Don't just be too much on them. Just I know it's difficult as a parent, you know, you want to control everything. Ukimaliza hapo unaingia alliance, ukimaliza hapo unaenda university. Just relax. It's not their plan, that is your plan. Like, just let them make their own decisions, but be there in case they need you.
Yeah, give them a little bit of wiggle room and a bit of rope so they can decide what direction they want to go into. But also, don't forget, technology has been very helpful. Simply because you can't physically see your child doesn't mean you can't call them on video call, right? They will still see you. Yes, it's different, but it does play a huge role in making sure that you're taking care of your children. Yes, you may not be there to see them throughout the day, but you have nanny cams, correct? Which means you can see everything that's happening in your home, where your child is, even if you've left them with a stranger or whoever you've left them in the house with, right? Yes, you may not necessarily have access to them in school, but you have access to their teachers, you have access to parent teacher association meetings, you have access to all of these things where you can inquire about your children. And we all know sometimes you need to have at least one teacher's contact information for you to check up on your kid every so often. It just is what it is, especially kids in boarding school. It's very vital that they still feel like they have access to you, because it can be quite the challenge being in boarding school. And all these other forms of technology which can help you out. Yes, you may not necessarily be able to respond to them in quick time, but you can send them money if they need it in like a quick second. They call you, I mean, an emergency, you can quickly just send them money to get them out of a situation, right? Like, make sure you are involving technology in your life to help you parent, as opposed to looking at it as the devil, right?
And even the people who spend time around your children, vet them.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, your house, your home is a safe space for your child. They should know that whatever happens in the world, when I come home, I am safe. And that starts with making the home itself a safe space. So the caregivers, the people you leave in charge of your children, you need to make sure that they have the best interest of your child at hand. It is so unfortunate that sometimes we're not blaming parents, because you need to make this money. Capitalism is on your necks. You have to go to work, you have to provide for your family. But unfortunately, the people you leave your children with, 9 times out of 10, you'll find they're predators. You'll find something horrible is happening. They are cruel with your child. They are abusing your child. And it's so unfortunate that even when you can leave a house manager in charge of your whole house, your TV, your electronics, but you always have to put up a nanny cam just in case, they do something to your child. It's so unfortunate. This is the world we live in. And you think, if you find a relative, it's going to be safer. Who told you? How many cases have we heard of abuse coming from relatives? So always make sure that you vet them. Always listen to your child. If your child says, I don't like so and so, can you listen to them? Don't say, don't dismiss your children. Listen to your children when they communicate to you that they're uncomfortable.
And yeah, to sum it up, it's just a matter of priority and strategy as a parent. You may have 2 weeks of work that are super busy and you're just like on deadlines, and someone's up your behind because you need to get this work done. But are you finding time after those 2 weeks to actually spend with your kids, right? You just need to prioritize. Just like everything else in your life, prioritize and strategize. Find gaps in your time. Find ritualistic moments to spend with your kids. You've seen children and their parents, like you hear Sunday is daddy and I time, You hear, on Saturday I go to the salon with my mom. Like, these are rituals that are important. You hear that people have one day during the week where they have a meal together, and that's just standard. Everybody knows that on this particular day we're having a meal together as a family, all of us at the table, and we all just talk and bond. And these things do help. These new rituals, these new routines, they really help with like bonding with your family, simply because it feels like even if something is stressing you out, on Monday when we have dinner, I'll tell mommy, I'll tell daddy. These are, it's kind of conditioning your children to know that this is a safe time to tell you something. This is the time when I'm dedicating to you to tell you something. You can tell me something anytime, but in case you haven't found a window, this is the time you can talk to me. You can tell me what's going on in your life. And that is safety, and it's very, very important. It's mental security. It's very, very vital. As we wrap it up, as the parent of our group, anything else you need to mention?
Nah, just take care of your children.
Absolutely. Be my eye. That's so silly. Anyway, see you tomorrow.
Star I see, a vision